Hello everybody and welcome back to The Lost Planeswalker. You're here with me, Jesse, the Lost Planeswalker, and today I'm doing another commander from the Outlaws of Thunder Junction set with Ghired, Mirror of the Wilds. Now this is a deck my friend Josh made, also known as Silver Fur and Archer deck. He has some great decks. You know, he's been playing Magic for a very long time, and he's very accurately labeled this deck the Clone Wars for very good reason. So let's dive right in and see how Ghired works. Ghired, Mirror to the Wilds, red, green, white, legendary creature, human shaman with haste, and non-token creatures you control have tap. Create a token that's a copy of target token you control that entered the battlefield this turn. This is a pretty neat commander because we're going to do something that we don't really see a lot, which is make copies of tokens that are just something that entered. You know, there's a lot of things that make tokens or tap to make tokens or whatever, but making a specific token over and over again based on it entering the battlefield this turn is a really neat effect and something we haven't really seen a lot of. This is definitely one of my picks for most strong commanders from this set, and he built this deck, so I wanted to show it off. So thank you so much for letting me do this, Josh. So obviously the way that this deck is going to be set up is token creation and then some really good utility and good stuff to help get us the win. So starting out, we have mass token creation, and this is going to be the category where we make a ton of tokens, and maybe we make tokens of that or we wait for something better. But starting off, we have Anima Bakal, Thousand Moon, Arasta of the Endless Web, and Yuzuri's Predation. So one red, white, legendary creature, human soldier, with whenever you attack with one or more non-gnome creatures, put a +1/+1 counter on Anima Bakal, then create X 1/1 colorless gnome artifact creature tokens that are tapped and attacking, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on Anima Bakal. This is just straight up a super powerful card. I haven't seen a lot of decks built around Anima Bakal yet, but I think she's going to be a very powerful commander to mess with. The fact that she makes these artifact tokens and she just makes more and more of them every turn presents a big threat to your opponents. Arasta of the Endless Web is 2 green legendary enchantment creature spider with reach, and whenever an opponent casts an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/2 green spider creature token with reach. Giving reach to tokens is really great because you really don't care if they die or not. You know, sometimes when creatures have reach, you're like, well, I want this to stick around, so I'm not going to block that 5/5 dragon, but we really don't care here, and honestly, this is a good token to copy, if nothing less. And then Yuzuri's Predation, 5 green, sorcery for each creature your opponents control. Put a 4/4 green Phyrexian Beast creature token on each of those tokens, fight a different one of those creatures. This is a great way to clear the board in green, but also give you a bunch of creatures if your opponents have some weaker tokens or creatures on the board. Now, talking about making mass tokens, well, we want to do mass token doublers. So we have Mondrak, Gloridamus, Parallel Lives, and Second Harvest. You know, also in this deck are Doubling Season and Anointed Procession and whatnot, but really you only need a couple of these to really be strong. I mean, you really technically don't need any. Ghired here is so powerful, and you know, this is just extra bonus win more sort of effects. But Mondrak, Gloridamus, 2 white legendary creature Phyrexian Horror, with if one or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many of those tokens are created instead, and for 1 Phyrexian white, Phyrexian right, you could sack 2 artifacts and or creatures and put an indestructible counter on it. Notably, you're going to be playing this in a token deck, you're going to be very happy to sack a couple of tokens to give this indestructible. Parallel Lives, 3 in a green enchantment. If an effect would put one or more tokens on the battlefield under control, it puts twice those many as the token on the battlefield instead. And then Second Harvest, same mana cost, 2 green instant. For each token you control, create a token that's a copy of that permanent. Great way to kind of get super ahead, and it's an instant, so you can cast it the turn before yours and then attack and probably kill your opponents with the number of tokens you've created. But something I want to talk about specifically in this deck, obviously we can make a bunch of tokens, and obviously we can make more of those tokens using the doublers, but what about unique tokens, or things that normally you wouldn't get to create tokens of, or it's not easy to create tokens of that stuff? So starting out, we have Blade of Selves, Calamity, Galloping Inferno, and Dino DNA. Blade of Selves is 2 generic artifact equipment with equipped creature has Myriad, and you equip it for 4. So Myriad means whenever this attacks, you create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of that creature, and they get exiled at the end of combat. But interestingly, we have a lot of tokens that care about, you know, ETB effects, or who knows, any number of things, especially those WinCon cards I'm going to talk about later on. But while those tokens go away, Ghired says, no, actually, if you want to make more of those tokens, go right ahead, and all of your other things can tap and create tokens that do stick around, which is incredibly busted. There's a lot of cards in this deck. As I run through them, you'll say, oh, well, yeah, I'd love to have multiple copies of that. But next up, we have Calamity Galloping Inferno, 4 red, legendary creature, horse mount. This is a new card from the Outlaws of Thunder Junction set, and it is perfect, almost too perfect for this deck. It has haste, and whenever it attacks while saddled, choose a non-legendary creature that's saddled at this turn and create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of it. Sack the token at the beginning of the next end step and repeat this process once. So basically, you get to create 2 copies of a non-legendary creature, and while they go away, you just make that token, actually 2 of them, so you can use all your other creatures that aren't tokens to create more of them. Calamity is definitely a card I think if you're playing this deck, you have to play. And then Dino DNA, a single mana artifact with imprint, 1 and tap, exile target creature card from a graveyard, activate only as a sorcery. And then 6, create a token that's a copy of target creature exiled with Dino DNA, except it's a 6/6 green dinosaur creature with trample, activate only as a sorcery. There are a lot of great creatures that, hey, we can come back as a 6/6, and then you just make a ton of tokens of using Ghired. I love this effect. I think Dino DNA is an $8 card for a reason, and it's definitely going to be powerful. So I've already covered making a lot of tokens, token doubling, and making anything into a token, but let's talk about those big tokens, right? We want to get some maximum value by making some giant tokens that are just going to overpower the board. So starting out, we have Displaced Dinosaurs, Golta and Maverin, and Gruff Triplets. 5 green creature dinosaur. As an historic permanent enters the battlefield under control, it becomes a 7/7 dinosaur creature in addition to its other types. Displaced Dinosaurs is an insane card, and having multiple of them is going to give you multiple big things, but think about it with Anima Bakal, right? Those are artifact creature tokens that are coming in tapped and attack. And Displaced Dinosaurs says, since those are historic, because they are artifacts, they're all going to be 7/7s with trample. Now this is kind of a huge way just to win in this deck by creating giant dinosaurs and making multiple copies of Displaced Dinosaurs, because it's not a legendary creature, is insane. Golta and Maverin on the same kind of route. 3 green, white, legendary creature dinosaur vampire with trample, and whenever you attack, choose one. Create a tapped and attacking XX green dinosaur creature token with trample, where X is the greatest power among other attacking creatures. So not only can we create this giant dinosaur creature token and make copies of it, but the other mode is create X 1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink, where X is the number of other attacking creatures. So we can either go big or go wide, and then whatever we choose to do, we can just make multiple tokens of it. And then lastly, in this large token category, we have Gruff Triplets, 3 green creature satyr warrior with trample, and whenever it enters, if it isn't a token, create 2 tokens that are copies of it. And when it dies, put a number of +1/+1 counters equal to its power on each other creature named Gruff Triplets. Think about making like 10 of these. Just the insaneness of how big that final token is going to be, especially because they all have trample. It's just a win con. If you can't remove all of these all at once, you basically have lost the game, and you're, just swinging in with so many of these. So this is fantastic. But talking about cards that just win you the game, let's look at a couple in particular that I think are just going to help you win using these token strategies. So first off, we have Halo Fountain, Ogier Talk, Deepest Foundation, and There and Back Again. Halo Fountain is 2 in a white artifact, white and tap, untap a tapped creature you control, create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. Well, that's perfect for our game because we want to just untap all of those creatures so we can tap them again with Ghired. Then white, tap, untap 2 tapped creatures you control and draw a card. Perfect, just doing even more. And white, tap, untap 15 tapped creatures you control, you win the game. Now, regardless if you actually winning the game here matters, untapping up to 15 permanents after you've put, one of the best creature tokens on the board and then creating 15 copies of that is going to win you the game anyways. So this is amazing. So next up here, we have Ogier Talk, Deepest Foundation with 4 white legendary creature god with vigilance, and if 1 or more creature tokens would be created under control, 3 times that many tokens are created instead. And when this dies, it returns to the battlefield tapped and transformed under its owner's control to the opposite side. But creating triple tokens, let alone, there's a lot of token doublers, and we have a lot of them in this deck, but creating triple of any token is just a game ender. It's a very expensive card, running $25, but hey, it's cheaper than Anointed Procession. And Anointed Procession is a little cheaper to cast, but triple tokens is insane. And then There and Back Again, 3 red. Saga, 1, up to 1 target creature can't block for as long as you control There and Back Again. and the ring tempts you. 2, search your library for a mountain card and put on the battlefield, then shuffle. And 3, create a Smog, legendary 6/6 red dragon creature token with flying haste, and when this creature dies, create 14 treasure tokens. Notably here, it's a legendary, which is perfect for us because when we make copies of it, it immediately dies, and we get 14 treasures for each time we do. Just think about one Ogier Talk trigger. That's 42 treasure tokens. If that can't win you the game, or your ability to do this multiple times, I don't know what will. But now let's look through the rest of those token creation cards, or benefit cards, or whatever, because it's just stacked so powerfully here. But we have Anointed Procession, Bone Horde Dracosaur, Cabaret Confluence, Doubling Season, Dragon Master Outcast, Eartha Joe Frontier Mentor, Eska's Chariot, Felden of the Third Path, Gala Greeters, Garuk Primal Hunter, Jirad's Belligerence, Jihad Conclave Exile, Growing Ranks, Helm of the Host, Molten Duplication, Nexus of Becoming, Prosperous Innkeeper, Resplendent Angel, Raise the Redeemed, Rootborn Defenses, Roxanne Starfall Savant, Sandworm Convergence, Tendershoot Dryad, Thousand Moon Smithy, Vaultborn Tyrant, Verdant Force, Virtue of Loyalty, Wolverine Riders, and Zariel, Archduke of Avernus. So next up, we're going to move right into that good stuff category that's just going to give us a final few pieces that are going to help us make sure that we can pull off the win every game. But before we get there, I just want to say, if you aren't subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so. I would really appreciate it. And keep an eye out. You know, I really appreciate all of the time and views and comments and likes everybody leaves, but I'm going to be trying to add some additional ways you can interact with my channel, so keep an eye out for that in the future here. But first off, let's look at the good copy hits. Now, obviously, a lot of those cards were really good copy hits, but I think these 3 in particular are what I was talking about, game enders in the good stuff category here, with Apex Devastator, Terror of the Peaks, and Verdant Sun's Avatar. All of these cards are just going to make it so if you play one of them and you can make a token of it and you make multiple, you're going to win the game. There's just a hands down, this is so powerful. Apex Devastator is 8 green creature, Chimera Hydra with Cascade, 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 Cascade. Getting to get 4 free things off the top of your library is great, but now create a token copy of this and get to do that multiple times. This isn't legendary, it's a 10/10. It's just absolutely crazy, and there's a reason it's 10 mana, and if you can just get that benefit over and over and over, that's insane. But another way that you can just burn out your opponents is Terror of the Peaks. 3 red creature dragon with flying. Spells your opponents cast that target Terror of the Peaks cost an additional 3 to cast, so it's basically a ward, pay 3 life. And whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Terror of the Peaks deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target. Not only when you cast this or make token copies of it, let's say you make 2 token copies of it. The first one's going to enter, you're going to deal 5 damage. The second one's going to enter, you deal 10 damage. You dealt 15 damage by just creating, 2 tokens of this. Think about creating multiple tokens of Apex Devastator. 10, 10, 10, just over and over and over again. It's so good, and it just got reprinted. It's going to go back up in price here. It's still hovering around $15, $20, so if you don't have a copy of Terror of the Peaks, I would recommend getting one. And then Verdant Sun's Avatar, 5 green creature dinosaur avatar. When it or another creature enters the battlefield under control, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. Life gain is pretty serious, and if you can just gain an insane amount of life creating multiple tokens of this, and then whatever else you cast or copy and make tokens of is just gonna be insane and gain you so much life. But the last thing I want to talk about in the good stuff category is just dealing massive amounts of damage. Not that I just said, we just did, but other ways to deal massive amounts of damage. And we have Jetmir, Nexus of Revels, War Leader's Call, and Warstorm Surge. Jetmir, Nexus of Revels is 1 red, green, and a white creature. Legendary creature, Cat Demon. With creatures you control, get +1/+1 and have Vigilance for as long as you control 3 or more of creatures. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and have Trample for as long as you control 6 or more. And creatures you control get +1/+1 and have Double Strike for as long as you control 9 or more creatures. Creating 9 creatures / tokens in this deck is very, very easy. And getting +3/+3, Vigilance, Trample, and Double Strike is going to end any game as soon as you play Jetmir. It's basically just like a you win the game sort of spell as soon as you play it, which is so cool and powerful, so keep an eye out for that. But War Leader's Call is 1 red and white enchantment. Creatures you control get +1/+1, and whenever a creature enters the battlefield under control, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. We're going to create a ton of tokens in this deck, and it doesn't care if it's non-token or creature, so you can notably probably deal safely 20 or more damage easily every game with War Leader's Call on the board, and that's half an opponent's life total. That's just gonna win you the game regardless. But Warstorm Surge, 5 in a red enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under control, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. Very similar to Terror of the Peaks. You know, not as strong in terms of you can't create multiple copies of Warstorm Surge, unlike Terror of the Peaks, but you're going to be creating so many tokens. Think of the giant tokens you're going to be able to make with Galta and Mavrin, or Displaced Dinosaurs, or Gruff Triplets, or who knows, any number of cards in this deck. It's going to be insane. It's going to be powerful. And if you're looking for a really fun, powerful deck like this, you know, here you go. But the rest of those good stuff cards are Annie Joins Up, Arcane Signet, Chromatic Lantern, Garruk's Uprising, Growing Rights of Itlamok, Grumgully, The Generous, Impact Tremors, Rising of the Day, Soul Ring, Wily Duke, Antihero, and Heroic Intervention. And I would just like to say thank you so much for watching. Josh, thank you so much for letting me show off this deck. I really appreciate it. And if you're at all interested into this deck and seeing, you know, what great lands he included, because I'm not going to go over those, but the land base is fantastic in this deck, you know, please check that out in the description down below. This was such a fun deck to look at. You know, I did not look at this commander for building a deck around, and, you know, he ended up getting there before me, and I checked it out and I said, can I please review this, because it is amazing, and I'd really like to show that off, because I think a lot of you will get a lot of really cool inspiration out of the cards he decided to include. I just want to say thank you so much for watching. This has been a really fun deck to look at, and let me know in the comments down below what cards you like or dislike. You know, maybe Josh gets some inspiration from you guys. That would be amazing. In addition, please consider leaving a like, subscribing, and sharing this video with a friend. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be trying to do some more social media stuff and some other ways you guys can interact and support my channel, so keep an eye out for that. But I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And today's Scryfall card of the day is Simian Spirit Guide. First, an explosion of fire on the ground, then an explosion of laughter in the trees. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you later, Planeswalkers.